Boker Tov, good morning. Today is September 4th, Erev Shabbat, Parshat Kitavo, Friday. And we have a chance to study some Torah together, share some words of Torah and inspiration, I hope, with you before the Shabbos. I want to talk about blessings and curses. We might be familiar with the fact that in Parshat Kitavo, we have what we often refer to as the Tochacha. They are the harsh words that God has to share with the Jewish people should we fail to observe His commandments. It's a very intense portion, but it's actually the part that precedes that, which is more unusual to us. And I just want to share with you a few of these words. When the Jews stood on Mount Gerizim and Mount Eval, which is at modern-day Nablus, Shechem, the following will be declared to them, and everyone would answer Amen to each of these following things. Arur Ha'ish, this is the first one. Cursed is the person, Asher Yaseh Fesel Masichat Adonai Maseidei Charash. Anybody who makes a graven or molten image, an abomination of God, a craftsman's handiwork, Besam Basater, and he puts it in a secret place. V'anu Chol Ha'am Ramru Amen. Everybody answers when they hear that curse, and they say Amen. Arur Maklev Imo V'amar Kol Amen. And cursed be someone who degrades his father and mother, and everybody answers Amen. Arur Masig Gvul Re'ehu. Cursed is the one who moves the border, the boundary of his neighbor. V'amar Kol Amen. Arur Mashke Iver Badarech V'amar Kol Amen. People who cause a blind person to go astray on the road. What is going on here? There are more here, but why this list of things that people should be cursed for doing? And I've always been drawn to the very opening words of that Avodah Zarah reference, right? It's the person who makes an idol and he places it in secret. Or the person, and all these things, person who degrades a parent, that doesn't usually happen in the open. I guess it could, but that's what happens usually behind closed doors. Or shifting the boundary line with the border line with your neighbor also happens secretly, in secret. And the way I've always understood this is that is the essential change that's happened for the Jewish people for all these 39, 40 years that they've been in the desert. The one thing they really haven't had is much privacy. Yes, it's true. We have the beautiful teaching of Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov. How good are your tents, O Jacob? How goodly are they? And the sages say that right. No tent entrance faced another person's tent entrance. So people had a little bit of privacy, but you know what? There are 2 million people living in close proximity, and people don't have much private space. And now they're going to enter Israel. In the biblical reference in Kitavo, they're entering Israel, and they're going to meet something new, and that's called private space, my own domain, where people aren't going to see what I do every day. People aren't going to watch me. They're not going to know when I do something wrong. They might not know something right either, but suddenly I have a freedom, the freedom to act without others knowing what I'm doing. And so to sort of put a pressure on the individual, there is sort of the language of the set of curses that everyone takes to themselves, even though no one's going to see. Let a curse be upon any person who does all these things that happen sater, in secret, in privacy, as a way to somehow be of greater control over that which would be too tempting for us otherwise. You know, there's something that I would say of all of us over these past, 6 months. Can you imagine? March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months where even though many of us have gone out and back into some degree of open public space, we've got a lot of private time, private space time for ourselves, maybe individually if we're living alone or with family. And sometimes in those situations, in those contexts, troubling things can happen. Sometimes it can be averas. I don't think anybody that I know of is probably worshiping an idol that's kept secret and private somewhere. But a description here of people who degrade and abuse an elderly parent. These are the worries that social workers and public policy individuals have right now. those involved in public health. What's happened to those who are most vulnerable in these close quarters and how they're being treated, God forbid. The same thing for children. One of the reasons why it's so important that we try to make it work that kids can get out to school is because sometimes kids live in difficult surroundings and everyone's feeling the pressure, and unfortunate things can happen. But whatever the list is, or even our own religious behavior, where we might have allowed have required of ourselves and expected of ourselves certain things when we're sort of out and intermingling with everybody religiously, in our private lives we might have let things slack. Or moral behavior, we can make the list. I don't need to go further. It's the challenge of Seter, of being indoors, being in private space. I'm not, when I read this text, I don't worry myself too much about the Erurim, about the fact of the curse. But I do remind myself of the call of leading the life I want to lead, even when others aren't watching me. Partially the rabbinic reminder that God's always watching, that's there. But just the encouragement, folks, this is where it's really, really matters, is when no other eyes are on you, what are you going to do? And this is a season in which we can ask ourselves, okay, good. What am I, I'm looking at Rosh Hashanah. How have I done in this? A, B, C, whatever grade you want to give. And how will I, whether or not we're trapped for much longer indoors or we make our way out, how do I want to be? What do I want to reach for? What do I want to arrive at? That is a lesson of the Seter discussion in Parshat Ki Tavo. May we use and be in our private times, be the best we can be as we would with anyone else around. Have a Shabbat Shalom.